A moment like this doesn't arrive quietly. It doesn't whisper its way into the automotive world. It explodes into it. Because when names like Mat Armstrong and Fxalexg enter the same sentence as Bugatti, you already know something serious is unfolding behind the scenes. And right now, that is exactly what's happening. A new project has reportedly been confirmed. A new build. A new challenge. And at the center of it all is one of the most extreme automotive manufacturers on the planet. Bugatti. This is not just another car rebuild. This is not another salvage restoration. This is something far bigger, something more controlled, more expensive, more dangerous in reputation terms. Because Bugatti does not operate like ordinary manufacturers. They don't just build cars, they build statements. And when statements like this get damaged, the entire automotive world pays attention. Now imagine this. A New Year project is being prepared. A collaboration-level build is being discussed. And the name attached to it is none other than Mat Armstrong, the creator known for turning wrecked supercars into viral engineering rebirths. This is where things start to feel unreal. Because for years, Mat Armstrong has been rebuilding machines that most people would consider total losses. Engines torn apart, chassis destroyed, electrical systems completely fried, cars that insurers had already given up on. And yet, somehow, he brings them back. But this time, the scale is different. This time, it's not just about restoring value. It's about restoring something from one of the most technologically advanced automotive brands ever created. Bugatti, a brand where even replacing a headlight requires precision engineering approval. A brand where every bolt is part of a larger philosophy of speed, control, and perfection. So when a project involving Bugatti gets confirmed, even in whispers, the entire car community stops scrolling. Because this isn't just a rebuild. This is a test of limits. And then there's Fxalexg, a name that adds another layer to this story. Another creator, another perspective, another style of storytelling. When multiple creators start orbiting a project of this scale, it stops being just content. It becomes an event. And events like this don't happen randomly. They are built slowly, through attention, through influence, and through momentum that only grows when audiences start asking the same question over and over again. What happens if this actually works? Because if it does, everything changes. Imagine the process. A damaged hypercar arriving into a workshop. Carbon fiber structure exposed. Engineering systems locked behind proprietary design. Components that are not meant to be touched outside factory conditions. Now imagine two creators documenting it. Frame by frame, bolt by bolt, failure by failure, progress by progress. That is not just YouTube content anymore. That is automotive history being recorded in real time. And the pressure behind that is enormous. Because unlike other manufacturers, Bugatti sits at the top of hypercar hierarchy. It is not just a car brand. It is a symbol of engineering dominance. A Bugatti is not meant to be casually disassembled in a garage. It is meant to be preserved, protected, and controlled. So the idea of a rebuild project involving that name instantly raises questions. Who approved this? What level of access is being granted? And what does Bugatti expect in return? Because make no mistake, if this project is real, it is not happening without awareness from somewhere high up. And that is what makes this moment so fascinating. This is not chaos. This is coordination. Slow, strategic, calculated. And while the audience sees excitement, the industry sees something else entirely. A shift in how hypercar storytelling is evolving. For years, brands like Bugatti control their narrative through official channels, polished footage, and highly curated media experiences. Everything was perfect. Everything was protected. But now, creators like Mat Armstrong and Fxalexg are changing the way audiences connect with machines. Not through perfection, but through reality, the real sound of engines being rebuilt, the real frustration of broken parts, the real emotional weight of saving something expensive from destruction. And that is something traditional marketing can never fully replicate. Because audiences don't just want to see cars anymore. They want to see transformation. And transformation is exactly what this project represents. But here's where the tension builds. Because every major rebuild carries risk. Mechanical risk, financial risk, reputation risk. One mistake on a platform like Bugatti, and the consequences are not small. They are global. That is why every step of this project matters. Every decision, every tool used, every moment captured on camera could become part of a much larger narrative. And if this really is confirmed New Year project, then timing itself becomes symbolic. New year, new beginning, new challenge, a machine that was broken, reborn at the start of a new cycle. That symbolism alone is enough to make this one of the most anticipated automotive projects in recent memory. And yet, what makes it even more powerful is uncertainty, because nothing about this is fully revealed yet. No full details, no complete roadmap, just fragments, hints, teasers, and speculation spreading faster than official confirmation. But in today's automotive world, that is often how the biggest stories begin. Quietly, then loudly, then everywhere. So now the question becomes unavoidable. Is this just another ambitious rebuild project? Or is this the beginning of a new era where hypercars like Bugatti are no longer just locked behind factory walls, but are being documented, explored, and rebuilt in front of millions? Because if Mat Armstrong and Fxalexg are truly stepping into Bugatti territory together, then the automotive internet is about to witness something it has never seen before. And when that moment arrives, no one will call it just a project. They will call it the beginning. And if you think this story is already big, it is only just starting to open up. Because every time a project like this is mentioned in the automotive world, there's always a deeper layer beneath the surface, a layer that the audience doesn't immediately see, but everyone inside the industry quietly understands. This is not just about rebuilding a car. This is about permission, access, and trust at the highest level. When a brand like Bugatti becomes part of any independent creator's narrative, even indirectly, it signals something rare in the hypercar ecosystem. It means the wall between manufacturer and creator is no longer completely closed. It means that somewhere in the background, conversations are happening that never make it to public statements. Because Bugatti doesn't just allow its machines to be handled casually. Every component is engineered under extreme precision. Every system is integrated into a larger philosophy of speed and stability that has taken decades to perfect. So if a damaged Bugatti is even being discussed in the same sentence as a garage rebuild project, it means the situation is already far beyond the early planning stage. And that is what makes this moment feel different. Not louder, but deeper. Meanwhile, Mat Armstrong has built his entire reputation on the opposite side of that world. He does not deal with untouched perfection. He deals with impact, with failure, with insurance write-offs, with machines that have already been judged as finished by everyone except him. And that is where his value lies. He doesn't just repair cars. He rewrites their endings. Now add Fxalexg into that equation, and the entire dynamic shifts again. Because when multiple creators with different styles, audiences, and storytelling approaches converge on a single hypercar project, the result is no longer just a rebuild video. It becomes layered storytelling. One perspective shows a mechanical rebuild. Another captures the emotional journey. Another focuses on engineering breakdowns. And together, they form something closer to a documentary series than a traditional YouTube upload. And that is exactly why this matters so much. Because the automotive industry is slowly realizing something it tried to avoid for years. Audiences no longer want distance from a process. They want access inside it. They want to see what happens when things go wrong, not just when they roll the production line perfectly polished. And creators like Mat are filling that gap. But a Bugatti-level project changes the scale completely. Because now, every mistake carries weight. Every decision becomes part of a public record. Every success becomes global news within hours. And every failure becomes a learning moment watched by millions. That pressure is what separates ordinary rebuilds from historic ones. And this is why speculation around this New Year project is spreading so quickly, because people can feel that difference already. Even without full confirmation, the energy around it is different, more controlled, more intentional, more this might actually happen than anything before it. And if it does happen, it won't just change one channel. It will change expectations across the entire automotive content space. Because suddenly, creators won't just be seen as entertainers or influencers. They will be seen as technical storytellers capable of handling machines at the highest engineering level. And that is a dangerous shift for traditional media, because it redefines who gets to tell automotive stories. Not just journalists, not just factory-approved filmmakers, but builders, rebuilders, creators who live inside the process. And that is where this story becomes bigger than any one car. It becomes a shift in authority, a shift in trust, a shift in where the automotive world chooses to look when it wants real stories. So when people hear Bugatti New Year project, they think it's about a car, but insiders understand it differently. They see it as a test of whether modern creators can handle legacy engineering at its highest level, a test of whether brands are ready to open their doors wider than ever before, and a test of whether audiences are ready to accept that the most valuable automotive content might no longer come from studios, but from workshops. Because if this project succeeds, even partially, it will set a precedent. Future collaborations will become easier, access will expand, more manufacturers will consider creator-led documentation, and rebuild culture will evolve from niche entertainment into mainstream automotive storytelling. But if it fails, if it collapses under complexity or restriction, then it will still matter, because even failure at this level becomes a reference point for what is possible. That is the reality of high-stakes automotive storytelling. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes history. And right now, this story is sitting right on that edge, between announcement and reality, between speculation and execution, between idea and engineering truth. And as the automotive world waits for confirmation, one thing is already clear. This is no longer just about Mat Armstrong. This is about how far creator-led automotive storytelling is willing to go, and whether a name like Bugatti is ready to step into that new era. Because once that line is crossed, there's no going back. And still, even now, the most important part of this entire situation is not what has been confirmed, but what has not been said out loud. Because in the automotive world, silence is never empty. It is structured, intentional, carefully maintained. And when a project of this magnitude begins circulating through the community without full official detail, it usually means one thing. The groundwork is already in motion behind closed doors. And that is where this story deepens again. Because when we talk about a potential New Year rebuild involving Bugatti, we are not talking about a simple restoration. We are talking about a machine that represents the absolute peak of combustion engineering, aerodynamic control, and material science. A machine where every millimeter of design exists for a reason. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is casual. Everything is calculated at factory-level precision. So the idea of that same machine entering a creator-led rebuild environment is not just rare. It is almost historically unusual. And yet, here we are. A creator like Mat Armstrong, known for rebuilding heavily damaged supercars that insurance companies have already declared total losses, is now being mentioned in the same space as one of the most controlled automotive manufacturers in the world. That alone changes the tone of everything, because Mat's world has always been chaos and recovery. Bent chassis, burnt wiring systems, engines that should never run again, cars that arrive in pieces and leave the workshop reborn through patience, skill, and relentless problem-solving. But Bugatti exists in the opposite universe. Perfection before damage even becomes a possibility. So if these two worlds are truly intersecting, even briefly, it represents something much larger than content. It represents a collision between controlled engineering and uncontrolled reality. And that is exactly what audiences are unknowingly drawn to. Because modern automotive viewers are no longer satisfied with static showroom perfection. They want to see what happens after the accident, after the failure, after the moment everything goes wrong. They want truth in motion, not just polished presentation. And that is why creators like Mat Armstrong have become so powerful without even trying to become powerful. They document what used to be hidden. And Fxalexg, now attached to this conversation, adds another dimension entirely, because multiple creators mean multiple lenses. One sees mechanical breakdown. One sees emotional narrative. One sees engineering detail. And together, they construct something far more complete than traditional automotive media ever could. This is where the industry begins to shift. Quietly at first, then suddenly, then permanently. Because once manufacturers realize that audiences are spending more time watching rebuild journeys than official product launches, the entire marketing structure begins to bend. And Bugatti, whether intentionally or not, sits right at the center of that transition, not because they initiated it publicly, but because their name carries enough weight that even a rumor becomes a global discussion. That is the power of legacy brands at this level. But there's another layer here that often gets overlooked. Trust. A project like this cannot exist without it. If a damaged hypercar is truly entering a creator-led rebuild environment, then somewhere in the background there must be alignment between engineering expectations, brand protection, and content execution. That means conversations have already happened that the audience will likely never hear in full. And those conversations are often more important than the content itself, because they determine boundaries. What can be shown? What must be hidden? What is allowed to be rebuilt? And what is too sensitive even for public documentation? This is where creator-led automotive storytelling becomes more complex than people realize. It is not just filming and editing. It is negotiation with engineering reality. It is respect for proprietary systems. It is understanding that a hypercar is not just a product. It is intellectual property built over decades. So when people hear confirmed project, they imagine action. But what is really happening is alignment. Slow, careful, measured, and extremely intentional. Meanwhile, the audience only sees fragments, hints, mentions, speculation, and short clips that spark more questions and answers. And that is exactly how anticipation grows to this level. Because uncertainty fuels attention more than confirmation ever can. And right now, this story is living in that exact space. Between rumor and reality. Between expectation and execution. Between what fans think might happen and what industry insiders know is already being discussed. And that is why this moment feels different from normal automotive hype. It doesn't feel like marketing. It feels like transition. A transition in who gets to tell the story of the world's most advanced machines. For years, that authority belonged to manufacturers alone. Controlled environments. Controlled messaging. Controlled exposure. But now, creators are stepping into that narrative space. Not by replacing manufacturers, but by expanding how their stories are told. And if this Bugatti project fully materializes, it will not just be another build. It will become a reference point, a before and after moment for automotive media itself. Because after something like this, the expectation changes forever. Audiences will no longer be satisfied with surface-level reveals. They will want process. They will want breakdown. They will want authenticity over perfection. And that shift is already happening. Quietly, but steadily. And sitting right in the middle of it are names like Mat Armstrong and Fxalexg, and a manufacturer like Bugatti whose presence alone forces the entire conversation to scale upward. So the real question is no longer whether this project exists. The real question is what happens to the industry if it succeeds. Because success here does not just mean a finished car. It means validation of a new format, a new way of telling automotive stories. A new relationship between creators and manufacturers. And once that relationship is proven at this level, there is no going back to the old system, only forward. And as a new year approaches, the anticipation around this project is no longer just excitement. It is expectation, because something this large does not stay hypothetical for long. It either becomes reality, or it becomes a blueprint for what comes next. And either way, the automotive world is already paying attention. The moment this news broke, it didn't just spread, it exploded. Because for the first time, everything around Mat Armstrong's next big move is pointing in one direction. A Bugatti project that nobody saw coming, and a confirmation that changes everything we thought we knew about his rebuild journey. And if you think this is just another car build story, think again. Because this isn't about a damaged supercar anymore. This is about one of the most exclusive automotive brands on the planet, and a creator who has built his reputation on bringing the impossible back to life. Mat Armstrong has never played by the rules. While most creators chase trends, he chases wrecks that others call hopeless. Bent chassis, flooded engines, destroyed exotics, the kind of cars most people would scrap without a second thought. But Mat doesn't see an ending. He sees a beginning. And that's exactly why this moment feels different. Because the whispers around the automotive world are getting louder, and they all point to one thing. A Bugatti project is no longer just a rumor. It's happening, and the name being attached to it? Fxalexg. At first, nobody believed it. A Bugatti project involving a YouTuber? A brand known for extreme exclusivity suddenly entering the creator space through a rebuild narrative? It sounds impossible until you look at the pattern forming in front of us. The automotive world is changing. Silence is no longer the language of hypercar brands. Attention is, and Mat Armstrong has become impossible to ignore. Every rebuild he touches turns into a global story. Millions don't just watch him fix cars, they experience the entire resurrection process. The sweat, the setbacks, the missing parts, the impossible engineering problems, and finally, the ignition moment when a dead machine breathes again. That moment is what the internet comes for. And now imagine that moment. But with a Bugatti, this isn't just another rebuild. This is engineering at the highest level ever seen in the automotive world. We're talking about machines that are built with precision measured in microns. Cars that cost more than private islands. Cars that most mechanics will never even sit inside, let alone repair. And yet here we are, with confirmation signals pointing toward a project that could redefine what automotive content looks like forever. Sources close to the scene suggest this isn't a random collaboration. It's strategic, carefully timed, and designed to capture something bigger than views. Attention, legacy, influence. Because when a brand like Bugatti moves, it doesn't move lightly. Everything is controlled. Everything